Minutes actually. Give a couple more minutes to see if anyone wants to join.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's our first meeting that we've had for the community. I figure it'd be kind of small, and plus it's .NET Comp Day, so a lot of things going against us. Anyway, just wanted to get this started. Obviously, most of us know, are on the team here. Hi, Tom. I know we know Tom too. Just want to go ahead and get started, and we'll go through quick introductions, I guess. I'm Jason Kanicki, work at VMware, and I'm the .NET Experience Engineering Lead. David, I don't know if you want to go next or.
Sure. I'm David. I'm the Technical Product Marketing Manager with a focus on .NET and Steeltoe at VMware. I am to blame for all the bad tweets and misspellings on the website.
And somebody took the blame for that.
Mr. Hess, please.
I'm Tim Hess. I'm an engineer on the Steeltoe team working at VMware. I don't tweet from the Steeltoe account, so none of them are my fault.
I clean them up.
Yeah.
I go, Hanania?
Hey, I'm Hananiel. I'm also an engineer on the Steeltoe team. And yeah, I don't tweet either.
All right. And Tom, you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Tom Delaney. I'm a community member making use of Steeltoe and some of the work I'm currently doing.
Thanks, Tom.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having it.
Dave, you want to introduce yourself real quick? David? Dave Tillman?
Oh, yeah, what?
You want to
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
I said you want to introduce yourself real quick. Just to,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm Dave. I work on Steeltoe. Been doing it for a while.
Sweet hat, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, I love these hats. Good job. I don't know who did this. Was it you, David?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
marketing guy
Marketing
did
guy.
something right.
Very cool. All right. So yeah, I just want to get started. We obviously have, our good first issues is what we're trying to, to drive more community involvement. So some of the open issues, I set a link here basically for good first issues. We probably need to even add more there. But at this time, there's a good listing here. I'm going to share my screen actually.
Yeah, that would help.
1 second here. All right, everyone should see that. Here's the doc. I will paste the doc links, or maybe somebody else could paste the doc link in the chat. I don't know where my chat went. But yeah, so some good first issues. So I'll go ahead and just step through. It's not a ton here, but just something to get started. Some of these are relatively straightforward if you base it off of the work that's already been done. Some are just enhancement requests that we've had from the community or even internally on the team. Yeah, this is just a good getting started point for our developers. I will go through some of the open issues now. So we have 3 releases coming up. 252, which is just a maintenance release for our 2.5 release line. And then we have a 302, which is a couple of issues have come up since our 3.0 release, and we've been releasing periodic maintenance releases. So we try to do once a month is what we try to do, assuming there's plenty of backlog. And then our 3.1 is our next minor release, which is going to be pertaining to basically mostly around our Steeltoe stream functionality and continuing to build on our messaging work that we did in 3.0. So that's the main area we plan on addressing. I will go ahead and step through this a little bit here and just go through our some of the issues we have. So yeah, right now these are just some of the open issues. We already have 3 closed. Just the community feedback. Some things have been brought up, and also we've been going through and updating our samples and finding out some issues here and there, maybe some coverage stuff that we've added. So Tim's been working through that, a lot of that, trying to get things situated. He's also working on a reference application that's been bringing out some of the small little things we might have missed, or just make things a little bit easier. So some things we want to add to our next release there. And then same things, 3.02 is very similar. Just some bug fixes, and everything that's in 2x usually moves forward to a 3x line, assuming we didn't remove anything. So obviously our 3x line is focused on .NET Core 3.1, or actually most of it .NET Standard or .NET Core 3.1. And also .NET 5 is what 3.02 is focused on. So we have some closed issues, which I believe are related to supporting .NET 5. So that will happen in our 3.02. I think it's just some minor things, right, Tim, that we had?
Yeah, there was some NuGet packages that were targeting NetCore App 3.1 that didn't want to work in .NET 5.
So I think should be good. Not too much pain there, which was nice. And then we got our 3.1 release that's coming up, and you'll see significant amount of stuff here. A lot of these are already in progress. We do have you don't really see that on GitHub, but I do have another view I can show, which is my internal app on ZenHub, which shows what's in progress. So our main focus is, like I said, streams, getting that together, working with RabbitMQ for the first release, and then we'll build on that to other areas like Kafka and maybe Azure Service Bus moving forward. So a couple little things in the backlog here are our expression language work we need to get done, and the reference applications also out there, kind of a continuous thing we're going to be working on for the future. Go back to that. So yeah, that's what's up and coming on our next releases. We also have is there any questions around that, I guess, before we move forward? Or how things are organized or anything like that? Okay. All right. We will be, we do have an upcoming event, at least one, the .NET Conf. So right now is happening as of today. Tons of great sessions out there, so probably worth looking at. I should have probably put a link here. I did not. But Dave Tillman's doing a presentation on event-based microservices using Steeltoe, which would be pretty awesome. So I know we spent a lot of time on getting that presentation together. Anything you want to talk about there, Dave, or just?
Not really. Just come see it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Dave, would you mind just give us a brief of what you're going to do in the session?
We're going to walk through, kind of give a brief overview of what microservices is all about, interaction models between microservices, how they communicate, and specifically then focus and hone in on asynchronous communications models and some of the, well, I'll talk about at least one microservice pattern that's based off of that, and then show Steeltoe APIs and how you can use those APIs to implement that kind of functionality, and then do a real quick demo that just shows how easy it is to get a sending and a receiving client server service up and running. So we only have 30 minutes total. So, and 10 of it's supposed to be for question and answer. So it's hard to get
done. Yeah.
hard to get much done in 20 minutes and then Q&A. So, but we'll do what we can. So that's it. It's on Thursday at 4 o'clock Mountain Time.
Yeah, I have it on the doc here too, if you want to see that. All right, I don't know if there's any other events. Do we have anything else coming up anytime soon? With the on.net, right? The on.net live session, which is, on.net live. And that's the 19th?
The 19th. And
Not sure what time it is.
Tim, you blocked the time. Do you remember what time it is on the 19th?
I have it as 4:30, but I don't know if that's right or not.
I believe that's right. It was later in the day.
Is that Eastern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It probably won't go live at 4:30. It probably starts a little after that.
Okay.
In fact, I believe it is 5 o'clock. They had given us 30 minutes to get everything prepped because it is live.
You want to give a quick, I know, so that's going to be Tim and Ananiel is going to be doing that. You guys have want to give a quick, I guess, summary of what you plan on talking about?
I will have a little bit of a general intro, general intro to Steeltoe. We'll show off some of what the initializer can do. We'll probably deploy something to Azure Spring Cloud and take a walkthrough of the Spring Pet Clinic with Steeltoe editions.
Awesome. So Pet Clinic is what we're basing, we have one of the reference apps is going to be based on Pet Clinic. So that should be interesting to see how that all works together. All right. And then Hanana, you were going to be doing some messaging, right?
Yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about the messaging implementation that was just released in 3.0. And, a quick, short session on how to add the services and how to send messages and receive them with RabbitMQ.
Very good. Then that's it. Anything else, David, on your David Dearif on your end coming up?
Might just give a plug to Initializer and the work it seems to be unfolding pretty quickly.
Yeah, we could show it after this. I just wasn't sure. I know you guys were planning a blog around that too, but
yeah, Chris and I are in the midst of writing something up now. Mm-hmm.
So you can find the latest link. You're okay with me sharing that, Chris? Yeah. Okay. Here's the latest initializer. Obviously, right now it looks like this. Pretty basic. That was what our first attempt was, but a lot of new features have come. If you look at, it was based off of the Spring initializer, and now if you look at Spring initializer, it also looks a lot like this now.
Don't click the .NET framework option.
Okay.
I introduced a bug.
It's still staging, yes.
Yeah.
Warning there. Hopefully this week
It's an IP address, so that I think the IP address pretty much tells you how temporary it is.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is going to be this is our staging area. So eventually it'll move to our production, and then replace the old one. So do have some nice new layout. Some options here. Obviously, what shouldn't I click? You said this.
Yeah, don't click one of those.
Okay.
It'll just introduce a JavaScript error, so it doesn't look
Okay.
It's recoverable. Won't reboot your machine.
Much cleaner interface. Showing all the options here. We can pick a couple here, I guess, if we want. Dynamic logger and Spring Cloud Server. So and you can also just generate, or you can actually explore the work you're doing here. So
Do the Explorer. That's pretty cool.
yeah, so it actually shows you the code right here. You can copy and paste, download the project. It's really neat. Basically shows exactly what's going to be created on your file system when you download. So, nice new feature here. Also, if you look back here, there's a share option. So I just selected 2 of these dependencies, and if I click share, I get a URL, and then if I copy it and paste it into a new window, it should also have them. Yep, there you go. So now it has exactly how my project was configured, so you can share it with somebody else that might want to see or have the same kind of functionality or same project that you had, and to go through that. So you can actually just paste that URL to them, and it recreates it on the UI. There's also a curl experience, right?
Yep.
Yep. I don't have it set up right now, but it's pretty much pretty straightforward. I think we'll probably have some demos of that at some point to show this functionality.
Very snazzy curl demo. I added the Steeltoe logo, ASCII logo, to the output. Very happy.
All right, fancy.
We're on the edge.
And so obviously this is, still basically our first pre-version of Initializer. We took the beta sticker off, which is nice. There is a little bit more work until we get our 1.0 GA, but this works. This is a significant upgrade. And then we'll also have more templates eventually. And we'll continue to add our new versions of Steeltoe and obviously .NET 5 at some point once we get everything situated there. And don't forget light mode and dark mode again. That's a.
If you select the Azure Spring or the Azure hosting.
Which one?
Azure, down near the Azure Spring Cloud.
Yep.
And then you try selecting Steeltoe 2.4 or 2.5.1. You'll see. So we got the error checking kind of going.
Okay. Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Very nice.
Well.
And then also, yeah, so that's our Azure Spring Cloud. We have a collaboration with VMware and Steeltoe and Azure, obviously, which is pretty cool functionality. Basically brought a lot of the Spring Cloud functionality, config server, circuit breakers. What else do we bring over there? Management endpoints. All those things are out there on Azure Spring Cloud now. You can go to Azure and go ahead and download that too there. Not download, but add access to your account from there.
That when you add metrics in and you add the Zipkin exporter and Azure Insights will automatically capture that and will give you some very nice, like visualized distributed traces and some very nice things in Insights.
All right. Yeah. It's looks pretty sweet. There's some good demos out there. I think, David, did you have a demo on that, or was someone else did that? Anyway, it's on our blog, right? It should be on our blog, I think.
Actually, there's a piece coming out about Azure Spring Cloud with Steeltoe. That's in the works now.
Still working on that. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of some of the main updates coming out here real soon. Hoping the Initializer is out by the end of this week. Let's see. Anything else we want to discuss for the events, upcoming events? Anything else from the team?
Good.
Okay. Let's just say new blogs coming out. New blogs upcoming or coming out soon. It's still right. All right. Initializer. There we go. And then really just looking for if there's any community feedback. I know, Tom, you're probably the only one in this meeting, but if there's anything that you have that you want to bring to the table or questions about where we're trying to go or anything that you've seen problems or would like to see us, features or anything along those lines, anything along, or anybody on the team really, if they want to bring it up.
I was going to say nothing really particular. The only thing that kind of popped in my mind, I saw a few issues that were resolved related to Spring Boot admin integration. And it was more of a question of when I have actuators and things like that wired up and my app is being registered in Spring Boot admin, certain things don't show up. Mostly when I look at it, it looks like it's mostly errors on the Spring Boot admin side of things, in terms of it's making calls based on, or it's expecting metadata based on, well, I guess the Spring actuators, which don't necessarily nest the objects the same way as the .NET environment endpoints. So my question was, is there anything on the roadmap potentially for resolving that? Or is that something that would be more of do some customizations on Spring Boot admin to get it to work? I guess that's kind of the only thing I'm leaning towards. For the most part, whenever I register a Steeltoe app in Spring Boot admin, I get very basic high-level health. I don't get any of the nested health, and just an up or down kind of status. Maybe, and the loggers work, but that's about it.
Actually, Tom, let me, I've got a running instance of admin server, and I've done some work around this for getting full actuators in admin server. Jason, you're sharing. So if you wouldn't mind, Jason, will you bring up
I just gave it
that?
to you. You can share yours now. I just gave it to you.
Okay. Cool. You can see this okay, Tom?
I see Slack.
Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? Okay. So this is running our pet clinic app. This is kind of a new thing. It's in the incubator right now.
Yep.
This is Spring Pet Clinic, but we have adapted the 3 microservices within the application as .NET Core services. And then there's also a branch for Azure Spring Cloud. So it's deploying everything to Azure Spring Cloud. Azure Spring Cloud is just using Eureka and configuring everything behind the scenes instead of you having to do it.
Okay.
So this is running on Azure Spring Cloud. The admin server and the API gateway are obviously Spring components. Customers, vets, and visits are .NET Core. So I have spent a good amount of time just trying to get as much visible as possible. And so my baseline is over here because like all this stuff lights up. You got all these cool options over here for loggers and metrics and environment and such. So that's kind of like, I'd love to get there. The furthest that I've been able to go, I got a little bit of actually I haven't plugged in any metadata in the app. That really isn't a thing for me right now. I don't have any metrics like the other one. There's a little bit being fed out, but quite frankly, I haven't spent a lot of time on that. The environment dump is nice because this will give me a dump of all the environment variables as well. I'm going to scroll, sorry. As I'm using a config server and I've loaded in a hierarchy 3 different profiles in config server. And so this is actually exposing all of those values from config server to me. That was a pretty nice one to just get all that. Possibly one of the most useful things is I have dynamic logging.
Yeah.
So I can actually turn logging up and down just by the click of a button.
Personally, that one's been a lifesaver for us a couple times.
Yes, amen. Me too. And the cool thing is, like, obviously all the Microsoft packages, all the Steeltoe packages, you can just do a global thing, or like specifically for this app, I can turn on the logging up and down. So that's like, this just gave me some granular ways of manipulating things and debugging things. It was a lifesaver for sure. It'll give me a dump of my mappings. So those are all my endpoints within the application. I have 2 different controllers in here. This will give me some basic tracing. there's not a whole lot going on right now. So
Yeah.
I'm just to show you something, there's some actuator stuff going on in there. All of this is really handed to me. Like I just enabled all actuators and I got it.
Yeah.
I think one of the super secret things that I had to do though is in the application, which all of this is config first. So I'm going to switch over to the config repo. Or let's go into the global one. One of the things that I learned is, and you could put this in your app settings. You don't necessarily have to do the config server and all that.
Yeah.
But you have to tell Eureka where the health is for this. And in turn, because my Spring Boot admin server is using Eureka to discover everything and see everything, it all kind of works together.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if you're not using Eureka. Is
Okay.
this helping?
Yeah, definitely. I guess kind of where my only real question would be the additional, you mentioned additional stories and additional work that you have towards this. Are those kind of just going to be sprinkled throughout future releases, or is there a targeted epic that I'd be able to kind of follow along?
Yeah, there's no epic specific for the Spring Boot admin functionality. I believe we try to address it once it comes up, because I know that you were kind of hitting a lot of those areas, right? Was it Haniel or Tim? I can't remember, but
So there are a couple of things. I think one thing is Dave Deroff did not make any changes to the code to make this work. All his changes were in configuration and settings. He's also adding Spring Boot admin differently than you are. He's using Eureka to register Spring Boot admin. Spring Boot admin can inquire of Eureka and get metadata and information about its actuators, and then hit it that way. There's also a Spring Boot admin client that we've added. And I was trying to look it up, but it usually looks in the default places with default settings for Spring Boot or actuator settings. And those should work. And I remember them working not very long ago. So I don't know what errors you're seeing in, or what errors you're seeing on the Spring Boot admin side, if they're like security certificate issues, or what kind of things those are.
No, yeah. It was more of just a general question of how I could kind of track it. The specific issue that I'm encountering is, so on my particular team's project, we're really getting into observability and monitoring and actually adding them to the project. We haven't had them in the past. And right now, for the little bit that we need, Spring Boot admin, at least from my experience working with it with Spring Boot and all of the functionality and features that are, it surfaces from that perspective, is kind of a quick win and would get us the 80% what we need. One of the big ones is specifically on our health checks, having the nested health information. So we're connected to a Postgres database, and the Postgres database is, it wires up a health actuator for that. But when we go into Spring Boot admin, we get it's healthy, it's up, but we didn't get the nested, hey, or in our circumstance, the database was failing. Some of our other health checks were failing. All we got was the health, or the entire app was in an unhealthy state. We didn't get on the UI that it was specifically the database health check that was failing because we ran out of disk space, sort of deal. That was our specific exception. It was just more of a question about where I could follow the tracking of that progress.
Gotcha.
But that works.
Yeah, if you open an issue for that specific issue, we can take a look, prioritize it.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll go ahead and do that. From just looking at it, it looks like everything appears to be working fine. It's just where the Spring Boot admin UI is making subsequent calls, attempting to get to the health details. It's expecting them to be on the root level object. And Steeltoe, I believe, has them nested as details underneath the root.
So we added some new functionality for the Kubernetes thing. And I think maybe the Spring Boot admin is still following the old pattern. I
Yeah.
know the new Spring is using, I think ours is like, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but ours is following the Spring pattern now, the latest version, right? Um,
I mean, if you were talking about the way that response is returned, the data
Yeah.
structure on it, we haven't changed that. We
Yeah.
added groupings. We added health groups for liveness and readiness, and those come in a different node, but that's separate.
Oh,
from
okay,
this.
that's different node. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was, we changed the nesting, I thought, but okay. Okay, so I don't know, like, we'll
Yeah.
have to take a look at it.
It
No, that's
sounds like
good.
the JSON object that we're sending back is not compatible with what Spring sends back when you do the health check, and it's a database for Postgres. So we'd have to just go and look in the Spring Boot actuator code and see where they build up the health response for the Postgres database and see what we send versus what they send, and it's probably
Yeah.
different.
I can go ahead and I'll log an issue for this because I've kind of gone through and done that. So I'll log that.
And bottom
Thank
line,
you.
Tom, is we want to be as compatible as possible with the Spring folks, so that what you are trying to do, use a Spring admin UI to access .NET apps, should just work. And when it doesn't, then either we broke something or we never implemented it right in the first place. So,
And if there's a feature in the Spring Boot admin interface that you want Steeltoe apps to support, and you don't see it in the backlog, go ahead and add it. If it's not in the backlog, it's not in the backlog.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
In just regards to I know you mentioned having an epic or something, but typically if there's just one or two issues here and there, we will just leave them as issues. But if we start seeing like an area that needs to be affected in general, like for example, we just opened a Eureka epic, follow. There's a significant amount of areas we can enhance. So we want to put them all together and create an epic and then have somebody, the team or community, to be able to focus on that one area and knock out a bunch of those things at the same time that might be related. So that's something. So if we start seeing like a significant amount of Spring Boot admin, functionality that we want to do or something like that, then we probably will create an epic and then structure it that way. But typically, if it's one off here and there, then we probably won't have like a specific epic just to guide us through those things.
Okay, that works. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will. I think we're pretty much. Let's see here what my doc says here. I'll share it again. Yeah. So I wrote some notes from your discussion. Tom said he's going to open tickets. Issue with this. Okay. And I guess really anything else from the team or community want to discuss? Nothing. All right, and then our action items, I guess, would just be take a look at this ticket. Okay, and then yeah, that's all we have today. Anything else?
Do you want to talk about metrics? I don't know if this is a good time to talk about.
We could. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so, coming from our other meeting and the state of open telemetry in general, like we kind of had a lot of insight into the state of that project more than what I could see just from following the .NET side. So what I realized is that, as far as the stability of metrics in OpenTelemetry, and given that they are going to, in December, release 3.0, or sorry, GA of just the tracing part, and there's been like literally not any progress at all on the metrics side. And I kind of pulled together a few missing components from their implementation, use like some of the default aggregators, and use their notion of what's called a processor to kind of make that work for us. but it puts us in a very not a good place as far as having good metrics support inside the inside 3.0, GA, right, in our GA release. And not only that, and we're just talking about just the existing metrics, like the default metrics that are added with auto instrumentation. Those are like have a few issues that Andrew Stacker pointed out to, and we cannot in good conscience recommend people use the OpenTelemetry API, which is not stable at this point. The spec has not been settled. So we kind of are where we are. Do we just take the hit and just keep going, or should we at some point say, hey, look, we need a stable implementation, and the most stable implementation we have is open census, and take the effort to somehow either make that optional, switch between open telemetry and open census. I don't even know how, but do that, or just switch back to open census until they're ready. I don't know. Like, there's no good solution, but when we say GA and people like Andrew Stackall, like they kind of say, okay, we should get on this, and they have a really bad experience, then it's not good for us. So I don't have solutions. I just have problems.
Yeah, we're in a tough situation, obviously. We were hoping that metrics would be way further along than what it's looking like.
And
I think
by Microsoft bringing that in-house, it kind of shows us like it's a good project and it's good work, and it's good, but it's kind of died, right? And it's not continuing on. And so I think this is just generally Microsoft, they're not going to just contribute a ton of work to that project. They're going to own it. They're going to bring it in and put their opinions on it and own it. But it sounds like they're going to continue it. It's just internally. So
I don't agree with it's died. Actually, open telemetry is getting more ground.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should give
so
that some.
Actually, it's just like he said, unstable. A lot of people are involved in the project, the spec, and then it comes down to implementation, and that's based off the spec, and the spec's very volatile still, especially with metrics. So we took our first attempt at it and based it off of the alpha, and then it completely changed in the beta, and then who knows what's going to happen by GA. So it's been I guess just not a great process moving forward here, and we needed to make we thought it was the best move forward for 3.0. I don't know if we need to take a step back and just have like a more abstract, or maybe like just wrap one of these, or wrap both of them, open telemetry and open census. I don't think that's going to be a small task, but maybe we need to evaluate it from that point and having our own kind of at least abstractions here or wrappers around these things to make it functional, right? That people can base a Steeltoe metrics off of something or something along those lines. I don't know. I really don't know right now. This is an area we need to investigate more. A lot has been churning up lately for metrics in general.
The question is not if open telemetry is a good project and it is the future or not. I think we can all agree that it is the future. But in the short term, looking at it from VMware's perspective, looking at it from a VMware customer's perspective, people adopting and using this metrics should have something that works without issues. And to get there, what is the fastest way, right? Like part of our bet has been that, okay, we'll have a solid implementation from, when we have a solid API, we'll have a solid implementation of these metrics, and we'll have something working. Since we're not there, my focus is not even like what the API is, where it's going, but for default metrics, for application metrics, when people add stuff together, they should have a good experience on Wavefront or whatever VMware offerings there are. And
not just VMware, like whoever wants to use this for any
yeah.
application insights, all these things. So like, yeah, I mean, we need to have some. I agree. It's in a not a great state. It's just not a great state right now. And how we want to move forward.
But it's, I mean, like the fact that Microsoft is taking it in-house and ultimately it's going to be in the Microsoft namespace. I'm assuming that's where they're going to put it, or system namespace.
Some of it anyway. They're moving some of it into the BCL.
Yeah, it's whatever's not in the BCL will be, that will be in the Open Telemetry project, is what they said.
So are they going to take a dependency of the Open
No.
Telemetry project?
Now, Open Telemetry would sit on top of it. So, the whatever the core components of metrics and tracing are would live in the BCL. And then all of like ASP.NET Core, for example, would depend on that. And then on top of that, presumably for exporting purposes, you would have Open Telemetry.
Okay. And so, I mean, it seems to me that because Microsoft is taking, thank you for that, Tim, Microsoft's taking that core piece in, then that's what's going to be used, right? The Open Telemetry. And I'm only speaking from the .NET point of view with Open Telemetry, not speaking about the project overall.
Yeah.
But it seems like we all know developers are going to follow whatever Microsoft packages are there, right?
Yeah.
So it says to me, like, if they're taking this in-house and they're going to begin developing things in-house, if it is just the core of it and just, maybe expose the raw stuff, that's what you should be watching out for. And that's what you should work with. Because if it's going to be built into .NET to some degree, that's what everybody's going to be using.
Yeah. The question is, what do we do right now? Because right now it's horribly unstable, and it's going to be months and months before something is stable. But that's specifically with metrics, right?
Yeah.
How much of a mess would it create to bring back Open Census just for metrics, but keep using Open Telemetry for tracing?
Yeah, I think it can be done. I'm thinking it would be nice to be able to switch those out, but so basically,
I would guess that we're too tightly coupled at this point.
What's that?
I would guess that we're too tightly coupled at this point.
Yeah, so we'll have somewhere we're injecting so we previously used to have the Open Census object, and instead now we have the Open Telemetry. So we'll have some kind of a bridge object, and that's where the main thing gets injected, and all the classes would live separately, is what I'm thinking at a high level anyway. I think it's doable. So that way we can continue to keep the story about Open Telemetry, moving forward with it, keep going, and have the more stable Open Census under the hood for that, and that'll solve all of our.
You're saying have like a bridge API kind of thing?
Not a full API. Like, I'm thinking there's just very few places where the dependency injection or the dependency of the components to the diagnostic observers, for example, or what create new meters, right? So we'll have two different variants of these observers, one that collects an Open Census, use Open Census meters, and the other one that uses Open Telemetry meters. And then at dependency injection, and add the actuator, you use the options to say which one you want to inject. And I think that should work. So basically we'll have like two parallel implementations.
Well, one of them doesn't even work. So why even give someone the option?
Doesn't work today.
Yeah, that's where we are today. So we don't want to take away something we gave. Like, I mean, it works. Like the tracing stuff works. I'm sure that's what you're using. The metrics is what is kind of like some of the things are a little iffy.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, why even give someone the option to use something that is that unstable? Just from the metrics point of view.
So the part of the API, so whenever Microsoft does take it, right, the API will look like the Open Telemetry API. So that is the future. It's just not stable right now. So we're going to keep the unstable future available, right? And eventually it'll be more stable, and then people move on to that. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. This is just me thinking out loud after the meeting we've had and realizing where things were.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we need some more investigation here and to see what we can do to make it the best way forward, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we can get carve some time out of our schedule here to do that at some point in the near future and get a better idea of just how we can move forward. And like I said, if supporting both makes sense, we'll do our best. If it makes sense, just go back to open census for the time being, since that was basically our contribution in most for most of that code. It might just be.
So we can just rebrand it as Steeltoe metrics and forget about the fact that open census is dead. It's a perfectly working library.
We do need to figure out what the implications of that would be, right? So that's it. You know, maybe that is a way. Maybe that is a way forward. You know, obviously we're trying to use a more standard, you know, that everyone else is going to be using, but it's not ready yet. So, and those interfaces, you know, are not just unavailable at this point. So maybe for the time being, we move to the most stable direction we can, and then I'm just nervous about disrupting or backwards compatibility issues in the future. That's kind of why we moved to open telemetry, was just because that. But at the same time, who knows what's going to happen when they GA? They might have changed all the code. So, you know.
Can I ask? Because I know a couple of you guys are fairly savvy with the Spring side, and I'm assuming on the Spring side it's micrometer is the realm that we're in here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Sleuth.
And,
So
and what so like the metrics collection, core metrics collection in Spring, what do they do? Is that an open source project, or is that something Spring built, or do you know?
they use micrometer, which is sort of a facade, and you know, different libraries like Wavefront have their own. So you collect metrics with the micrometer API, so to speak, and then those will get published out to whatever exported formats. But they also support open telemetry APIs, and that part is like kind of in the same situation as us. But they have the old micrometer stuff that works fine, and with Zipkin, they have the Brave instrumentation library that is their that is what they use.
So they don't like have, you know, Spring metrics or anything, an abstraction. You just choose which provider you want to use to like aggregate metrics, and that's what it uses.
Yeah, I believe that is correct. And different vendors provide their micrometer variants of their stuff, and that's how it all works. I don't know. Dave can probably explain it better than I can.
I guess this is where the exploration comes in. Okay.
You're right. So they use the micrometer APIs, and Spring has instrumented all of their framework code with the micrometer APIs. And then there are backend exporters for various backends, right, that you want to send the metrics to, including just simple actuator APIs for the REST actuator APIs to pull metrics out of the micrometer registry. So, I mean, that's pretty much what it does. And yeah. And H, you're saying they're putting open telemetry APIs in place as well?
Yeah, they want to. I mean, what's his name? Marcel, right? Jason?
Marcin.
What's that?
Marcin.
I said his name wrong. Shoot, I should have listened carefully. Marcin. Okay.
Marcin. Yes, he's the sleuth lead, Spring Cloud sleuth.
Yeah. And so anyway, they're wanting to move forward, but they're having all kinds of trouble. But my point is like, okay, that working group with Wavefront, they can, the decisions they make on the Spring side will be completely different than what we have to make as a .NET team, because we don't have something like micrometer for us, right? Like Open Telemetry API was supposed to be our API. We don't have another facade or API layer.
Right.
We were going to use both the implementation and the API. But
and we, I mean, I did the open census implementation, and the idea was to pick up at the time, and this was quite some time ago, was rather than Steeltoe creating their own API like Micrometer, we decided to jump on a standardization bandwagon. In this case, it was being driven by Google, or at the time, and jumped on OpenCensus and jumped on their API as well as distributed tracing functionality, rather than creating our own. So, and at, you know, whether that was a good decision or not, you know, whatever. But I like the idea of trying to, at least in my opinion, stay with what the industry and the leaders are doing over there with Microsoft and Google, et cetera. So what's confusing to me, H, and what you described was Microsoft, of course, has their own system.diagnostics packages, I guess, is probably where they're putting the metrics, maybe.
Yeah, there'll be a new metrics namespace.
Are they?
Is what I heard. Yeah.
So things like event counter, et cetera, are just being expanded and enhanced. Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, I haven't followed. The activity is where all of the tracing stuff has fallen. But I don't know where, which namespace or which kind of stuff that they're going to tack their metric stuff onto.
I thought
But
Saurabh said it was all going in system diagnostics, diagnostic source.
For both metrics and tracing, or just tracing?
Oh, I think
It was the only thing. That's the only name that I remember coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
Diagnostic source is a way to communicate events between things within a process and in process. So there must be something that they're doing with like event counter, et cetera, event counter, to do more metrics oriented things.
Yeah, and
because somebody said a little bit ago that they were pushing some parts of the metrics gathering and instrumentation down into the Microsoft framework, and then they're layering on top of that open telemetry APIs. Somebody said that earlier. Is that?
yeah,
did I understand that?
No, so I think there's more to that. They want the core API to be implemented and compatible with whatever the open telemetry standard is. So like activity is an equivalent for the trace API. They're going to have an equivalent that's going to be maybe like 90% compatible with open telemetry and fully compatible with all the stuff they did before if they had something in that space, which I'm not aware of. So the API itself, they want to be their API first, right? And then if somebody comes along and collects stuff using OpenTelemetry API, they would have some kind of way to like use all of that together somehow. So I'm assuming they're both going to have an API and an implementation for gathering metrics and some of the stuffs like aggregating and things like that is what I'm assuming, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. So it sounds like I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
And I think the OpenTelemetry metrics API will use the other stuff to add any other functionality that they need on top of that.
Okay.
Is the way I understand it.
What I was reading between the lines when you were talking earlier about, somebody was talking earlier about there was going to be types, classes down in the BCL for capturing metrics, and then there was somebody said they were going to layer on top of it open telemetry APIs as well. And so I thought what was being suggested was, and that, of course I extrapolated this beyond probably where I should have, but Microsoft is going to use the stuff down in the BCL to instrument their own framework code, right? So in other words, they don't want to take a dependency on open telemetry in, for example, pick your favorite package in Microsoft world. When they want to instrument that, they'll use those lower level APIs to instrument their own framework code. And then an application like somebody using Steeltoe that's writing an application, they would use the open telemetry APIs, which basically just build on top of the Microsoft APIs. And so as an application developer, as the application writer, I would be using the open telemetry APIs, much like App Insights, right? Today you can use App Insights to instrument your application and capture metrics. Sounds like to me they're and it in turn then is built on top of the BCL. It sounds like that's what they're doing, but now they're using open telemetry as kind of the API instead of like app insights, if you will, going forward. Is the sense I was extrapolating in that fashion, but I haven't.
I was hearing the same thing, Dave. Yeah.
As was I.
Okay, so to me, it's a sign that Microsoft is still supporting the open telemetry stuff. It's not like they're backing away from it, right? They're
No.
in fact, it sounds like they may at some point begin to promote that API set if you want to instrument your application as an application developer, as opposed to using app insights. It's the sense I get. The App Insights API.
I found a couple issues in the .NET runtime repo, and I put them in chat here that are related. One of them is specifically metrics support. And I found these just by searching for open telemetry in the .NET runtime repo. So that's definitely where they're going to be doing some of this work, and it is cross-linked over to open telemetry.
Okay, I'll go dig through some of it. Bottom line, Jason, is we need to spend some time and truly understand where this is all headed before we just jump and make some decision on what we do. And
well,
at least in my opinion,
for what it's worth, this metric support is targeted at .NET 6.0, so that would be a full year away.
Yeah, November 2021.
And that's what they mentioned too on the call. So that'll be a year out. So
wow.
not the hope the words I wanted to hear. But so that's why we're trying to find an intermediate solution. What can we stabilize on and build off of at this point? It doesn't make sense to do that. Or do we have to, I don't know, roll our own? I don't want to roll our own, I'll tell you that. But maybe with it, just keep our options open here. But I'm not sure what the best path forward right now is. We definitely got to do some more investigation work here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're about done here. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up before we head off of our first call here? Everybody good?
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We'll have another one next month. I think the second Tuesday of every month. Is that what it is, David?
First Tuesday.
First Tuesday.
Just this one got renamed, but
We'll-
first Tuesday of every month.
We will put these notes out and the video on most likely our GitHub repo. We'll find a location. So thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for joining.
See you
Bye.
guys.
Right?
Thanks.
Thank you.